You're listening to 515, the Ultra Podcast, the show that invites you into the lives of people who make up the Ultra family. Here's your host for these conversations, Larry Ryan.
Thanks, MJ. If you've ever wanted to take on the challenge that is RAAM, you've found the right episode. Today's guest shares what he learned in his first two solo attempts before he got the race he wanted on the third try. Hint: a great crew who know each other well is a great start. My next guest has completed more than 33 Ironman events with multiple podium finishes and 6 times topped the podium for his age group. He holds an Ironman 70.3 age group world championship and has competed 9 times and podium multiple times at Ultraman Hawaii. And he has competed in 3 solo RAAM races. Joining me from his home in Ferrara, Italy, 2003 inductee into the Canadian Armed Forces Sports Hall of Fame, retired Lieutenant Colonel Anthony O'Keefe. Welcome.
Hey, thanks very much, Larry. Boy, that's me.
I hope I got all of that right.
It sounds good to me.
There's actually a lot more in there that I could have added, but I'm sure we'll get into some of those things as we talk today.
Thank you. You're very kind.
Yeah. So how does a Canadian end up retiring in Italy, Tony?
Well, a bit of a story there, how we ended up here. I'm retired military, and my wife just recently retired, but she was active duty and took a job with NATO. And we got posted over to Italy with in the back of our minds. My wife Jack has always loved it here. She was stationed here in the early '90s on a temporary duty, and our kids are grown, no real commitment. Thought, hey, why don't we try what we said we wanted to do? And so we cashed in the chips there a little over a year ago and said, let's give it a shot.
And how is your Italian? Was your Italian good enough to be moving into a foreign country and living there? Well,
I've gotten better real quick, only out of necessity. I go to school here. I'm a student at professional aviation just outside of Bologna, and I'm getting all my pilot licenses in Europe validated. And of course, the classes are in Italian, so the learning curve is steep. But where we live, predominantly, you won't hear any English in Ferrara. We live in a medieval Renaissance city. It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. But it's off the beaten track for, let's say, North American tourists. And we're situated right in Centro Storico, in the historical part. And like I say, it's sink or swim. If you want to eat, you learn pretty darn quick.
Yeah, I bet. And how about your wife? How's her Italian?
She's coming along. She's coming along. And she goes out there and braves it. She did some work here with the Italians prior to us retiring here, so she knows her way around. She knows her way around the place.
Mm. And the city that you're in, it's in northern Italy, correct?
That's right. In between, right halfway between Bologna and Venice, Venezia, and both of those are a bike ride away.
And have you adopted that European lifestyle of doing cycling tours as well?
Well, it's in my blood. I mean, I do it on my own. I managed to drag out a few locals here now. Cycling it's just another level here. It's a very social sport. You're considered a person on a bike, not a target to be hit. Yeah. I'm telling you, I'm in my 5th year here. I've never been beeped at. I've never been honked at. And I've ridden to Florence, I've ridden all over. And so to my point, there's always somebody willing to want to go for a ride. And as I say, the cycling groups here, enormously social. Families are involved, so we'll every weekend there's something going on. Every weekend.
Yeah. You were just saying before we started recording that the Tour de France is going to come by there this year.
Yeah, the tour starts in Firenze, Florence, to English speakers, and it's an hour down the road by train here, or it's a 6.5 hour bike ride over the Apennine Tuscany Mountains. Either way, we're going. My wife and I, we've rented a place for a couple of days to take in the whole circus. I mean, it's the tour. The Giro, obviously the Giro in May every year, and it comes every year. Stage 13, the midsection stage, crisscrosses. Whether it starts in the north or it starts in the south, eventually it's got to come through Emilia-Romagna, and so we're just absolutely spoiled. It's not hard to find a few cycling nerds who want to go hang out up in the mountains for a while, and let's go chase some water bottles and free Giro swag. Yeah, it's gorgeous.
That's excellent. Yeah. Well, you do obviously have a big background in the cycling part. I mean, you're on the Ultraman podcast here, but cycling has been a big part of your life. RAAM is one of those events that a lot of people aspire to, and you've done it 3 times.
That's right.
As we're speaking now, the RAAM is, well, finished for some and still going on for others. I'm sure you've been following and dot watching along.
Yeah.
Have you been following along this year?
Yeah, in and out, in and out. The time difference, life gets busy here pretty quick, so we're upside down.
Right. Yeah. Well, I guess the one good thing about RAAM is it doesn't really matter what the time is because they're still going whatever time it is where you are.
Yeah, that's it. That's true.
Yeah. So this year there was a rookie winner. His name is Jimmy Ron, and he's from Sweden. He won the solo race, and they finished in Atlantic City again this year. As you know,
nice.
They do change the course from time to time. I believe when you did it, it was not finishing in Atlantic City.
The first time we finished in Atlantic City.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And we had the esteemed privilege to stay in Trump Tower on the last night. I'm still getting deloused.
That's excellent. So with your RAAM career, what do you take away from that? You did it solo in 2006, 2009, where you unfortunately had a crash and didn't finish. And then in 2010 again, where you had your own PB of 10 days and you were 4th place overall. Actually, maybe before that, can you just tell us again what the race entails? I'm sure most of my listeners know about RAAM, but maybe we'll give them just a little background.
So I can speak about the solo end of it only because I know it. So from the solo in 2006, we started in Oceanside on the pier. So touch your feet into the Pacific Ocean, and we finish in Atlantic City, New Jersey, that particular year. 14 states, 4 different time zones, tons of climbing through the Rockies. Obviously, is one aspect, but something that sneaks up on and folks don't really count on is through the Appalachians. Right. There's more climbing in the Appalachians, and it's up and down, up and down.
Yeah. So before you did your first one, how much time do you do researching into like the strategy, the training, and how to get your crew to work together? But prior to that first race.
Well, there's I wouldn't recommend this to anybody, but what really happened, and I'm not kidding you, it was like January, February. My wife Jackie said, she'll take on the logistics side of it. There's I wanted to try RAAM, so I contacted the race director, and he said, well, you got to do a qualifier, and you've got to be able to finish 425 miles, whatever that is in K, in 24 hours. And there's a series of these ultra races around. So we hummed and we hawed, and a couple of weeks later, there was one happening in Sebring in Florida. Now, this is February. I got on my wind trainer in the basement and got my legs up to speed, and my wife and I and a friend, we flew down to Florida for the weekend. And I'm honest to God, like I was, I'm coming here to do RAAM. And guys were looking at me like, you've got to be kidding. There's no way, you do usually, and I would advise it. Take your take your time and lead into it, because if it wasn't for the crew, I wouldn't have made it through RAAM. I wouldn't have got out of California, and that's the truth. There's a documentary on that particular race in 2006. It's up on YouTube somewhere. A guy filmed it, and it really shows what it takes to get someone through. And I wasn't nearly as well prepared as I should have been. But like I say, through just the grace and hard work of the crew, lots of those folks have been to Ultra, by the way, crewing or racing themselves. So we had an absolutely super team. There was no question. I was the monkey on the bike, and hey, we made it through the race in Sebring, Florida. Like I didn't realize it's a 24-hour race, so you need lights on your bike.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I thought that it was on like that Sebring NASCAR 500 track, that big oval thing that's all lit up. I didn't realize it's on an old Formula One race course, and the lights don't work at all. There's no lights on the course, none. So you need a light. So I realized, like, when after the first 12 hours or so, they're not going to let me on the course without one. So Jackie went and got a flashlight, and we got a red beacon off of one of the cones that was there for the safety. The flashlight lasted about an hour, and the batteries died. It was just one of those experiences. And I realized now I get why they make you do these things, because you got to be prepared, which I wasn't. But
Right.
I managed to get through. I think I did 433 miles and finished in third. And I thought, okay, yeah, we're going to RAAM. and I went to RAAM in June.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it is. Don't do it. I have a very good friend who's an ultra guy, and he's done. I'll talk about him many times. His name's Dan Bodden. And he's crewed for me all three times at RAAM, and excellent guy. And he wanted to give it a shot, and I love the guy so much. I insisted. I've done it three times. The third time I did it, because I kept messing it up all the time, the third time I did it, I really did pay attention. And I went and I picked a 36-hour race. That's, if you really want to know if RAAM's for you, take something longer than 24 hours, because you got to work through a few things that you don't see coming, including, sleep management or fatigue management. And so we went down to the heart of the South, 508, actually 520 miles,
Right.
through, and that was a real eye opener. It beat me up pretty good, but it got me ready for 2010. By the time I towed the line in 2010, I was ready to race. And I really had a great time. The crew was nailed. And my point about Dan was that he decided, he said, I think I want to do RAAM. Okay, buddy, but there's only one condition. You do one of these 36-hour deals. So me and Jack, we crewed for him in the race around Oregon. He got through it. He did great, but he said, oh no, not doing it.
Oh wow.
It's RAAM's not as strange as you think. It's stranger than you can think.
Right.
You're gonna go without a lot of things, and it gets in your. I look back at it now, and I can't believe how I was able to wrap my head around it. But it took the mistakes of 2006, 2009, and then it just got in my blood, and I couldn't let it go. But I have no intentions on going back now. I can tell you that.
At that time, what kind of training were you doing? I mean, you obviously had a solid base. You were racing Ironman at that time. Did you feel like, okay, well, I've done my 24 hours. I guess I'm ready to do it. Or did you, at that point, still realize, oh, maybe I need to ramp this up a little bit? And what kind of things did you do in between your qualifier and getting into that first one? And then after that one, how did you train differently for the next two?
That's an excellent question. In 2006, when we came home, again, I still didn't really grasp what we were going to do. But like I say, I had a good team of support, all military, ultra athletes, and great people. But one thing I thought was, these are back in 2006, and back in the day, I was on a CompuTrainer in my basement. I set up this thing where I was going to ride for 48 hours straight and just stay on the bike. And it was spring break, so the kids were off school, and they'd go off and do their stuff during the day and come back, and there's Dad I never got off the bike. 48 hours in my basement on a CompuTrainer.
Oh, wow.
And I had a record there for a while. CompuTrainer, they were very supportive. And then some other ultra nut has since smashed that. I think he's 98 or 100. I don't know. Well, 100 hours. But the reason for it was to be mentally prepared. Once that 2006 experience was out of my gut. So then I started to learn a whole lot more about, okay, I got to learn how to ride at night. I got to learn how to ride in the rain. Like it rained one year, 2006, 4 days straight. Mm-hmm. And we're traveling from west to east, so the clouds just followed us out of Colorado. And I didn't bring any rain gear. I thought, hey, man, it's June. We're going across the States. I was wearing stuff that I borrowed off my sister, off anyone who would give us stuff. Because once the race starts, you're not going back to your hotel room. Mm-hmm. So that whole logistic piece is a big challenge. Like, how do you keep this circus moving?
Right.
But by and large, 2009, we learned some things. And by 2010, I was pretty much ready. I was ready. I knew this is my lot in life. I do everything on a bike. I don't make any decisions. I do what I'm told, and that's it.
And I think a lot of people that get into ultra, and when they have an event with a crew, if they have that idea of, I trust my crew to get that stuff done, I just got to keep moving, they become very successful. And that speaks well to your crew, and not only your faith in them, but the fact that they can keep you going, as obviously they were learning along the way as well. What kind of setup did you guys have as far as vehicles? And then what were your strategies of your crew as far as being in different places at different times, washing stuff, getting sleep and all that? Because I know that's Ultraman. Yeah, you're out there for 10, 12 hours a day with the crew, and everybody's in the car and having a good time and putting on costumes and singing, dancing on the side of the road. This is next level crewing. So tell me a little bit about how the crew strategy goes for you.
So like I say, my wife, Jack, she pretty much ran the ship, but she had, they're still friends of ours today. I mentioned Dan Bodden as one integral guy I wouldn't do it without him. And if I was ever going to do anything, he's coming. Because he's a physiotherapist, massage therapist, great guy, athlete, funny, and a really good friend. So those were the critical pieces. And I knew for me, like, all I had to do was get into a mind state where it doesn't matter where we are, what time of day it is. I'm on the bike. And what I did, the most successful thing was we concocted an area where a regime where I would stay 10 hours on the bike, 90 minutes off. I had an RV following me, so in there, and I was able to strip down, take one of those showers, lie down, get one little REM cycle of sleep, eat, and then back on the bike, 10 hours on the bike again, come off the bike, and 2.5 to 3 hours of rest, regardless of a 24-hour cycle. It didn't matter where that ended up in the day, but that's how we did it. Okay. I limited myself to 1 cup of coffee a day. Only because I found that it was, I tried the coffee, Red Bull, no disrespect to brands, but I tried that thing and I just ended up with massive indigestion. Yeah. And so I realized, okay, I've got to go on straight good food and keep my core temperature down. And that's what we did. I ate real food. Every time I changed my shorts, my cycling kit every 2 hours. Mm. And just right on the side of the road, just pull over, boom, boom. We got it down and back on the bike in 2 minutes. But in that time, I'm eating, a mouthful of whatever, but real food. And we rolled. It really was. The hardest part of 2010's RAAM was when I realized I only have 100 miles to go. I just fell apart like a cheap suitcase. Up until that point, I realized this is my role in life. I just go on a bike. But now all of a sudden, I got a goal. 100 miles is still 100 damn miles.
Yeah.
And it's 90 degrees, and I'm feeling it. Now I'm hating it. But anyway, that's what I thought if I ever did RAAM again, I would practice how to finish. Because what we did do in 2010, I practiced the start. My wife and I, we flew to San Diego a couple of times, and I rode my bike from Oceanside to Las Vegas. And I got it because it's when you go from the Pacific Ocean into the desert, it's inside of 10 hours. The heat and temperature difference is extreme. And then at night, even though it's 120 degrees in Death Valley, and at night the temperature comes down to 60 degrees. That's a 60-degree delta.
Right.
And it affects a lot. There's a lot of casualties on the first day, a lot. And I was one of them in 2009. So I practiced that. I practiced, obviously climbing, riding in the rain, riding at night. So that it was normal to me. And then I just turned my brain off. I'm sorry, just if I can just say about the support vehicles, we had 2 vans and an RV. One van, you need to be in the headlights of the van at all times for safety. So we had a music system up there and everything you could think of in terms of bike mechanics. We had a bike mechanic with us, Mark Dwyer, great guy. And he was lickety split. Anytime I got off the bike, he would whip it up back into fighting shape in no time. Oh, awesome. And then the third van was used to shuttle crew ahead because remember, these guys need sleep. They're driving vehicles and they're making decisions. So and my wife ran that whole show. She had a schedule down, and like I say, to this day we're all great friends because it really did work out well, and we all wanted to succeed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely a team sport, I think. And when you were changing your clothes every 2 hours, there must have been a pile of laundry that needed to be done pretty regularly as well.
Exactly that. I thank my sister. My sister came along. She's my good luck charm, but she loves me enough to actually do those. No one else would touch it. But of course, it was biohazard. But all necessities, like all things. It's the details. Like in anything in life, it's the details that make the success. And the team was what let it happen.
Yeah, and even just knowing where to stop and do the laundry has got to be like one of those details you got to work out ahead of time, or you could end up going for a day without finding the place to stop and do it.
Well, and you think about it for a second, like a fan belt is going to go on one of those vehicles, right? You're going to get a flat tire for sure. Where are you going to do it? Yeah. So these were the things like they had computers, and that was not my business. Right. I did what I was told, and if there were things that happened, I never heard about them.
That's a good crew. Yeah.
Yeah. I never, when Ultraman was like that too. I mean, Jack ran every one of our Ultraman crews, and it was exactly like that. If there were troubles, I never heard about them.
Mm-hmm. Now, in 2009, what happened in that race? You had an accident. Is it?
Yeah, so a lot of things happened, a lot of mistakes that just compounded their way. I got what lots of RAAM folks call Schirmer's neck. This is where you just can't hold your head up anymore, because you're in this position. And so that was wearing me down. I got severely dehydrated in the desert on day number 1. I lost like 20 pounds. Massive mistake. So I was already behind the 8 ball. It took to Prescott, Arizona, so almost 3 days before I could really start eating again. And I started to pick up energy, but my body was failing. And when we got into Kansas, about the halfway point, I thought, okay, I'm now we're seeing casualties along the way. There was tons of people pulling out, and I'm rolling through, and I got caught on a train track and went down and hit my head. And I thought, okay, well, this is no longer cool. It's no longer safe. And we still got, 1,500 miles And I'm sure my mother doesn't want to see me on TV in a brace. So, I made a call, and I think that's what spooled me up to want to go back to 2010, because I'd made so many mistakes that I thought, I want to fix this.
Well, were they mistakes, or were they just you learned so many lessons that you were able to go and conquer it in 2010?
Well, I like the way you think. I like that. But I'm okay with making mistakes. I got a whole nav bag full of mistakes, and I call it experience.
Exactly. Yeah. And one of the funny stories that I understand, you actually got a speeding ticket on one of your races. Where did that happen, and how did that happen?
That's right. So in Colorado, Wolf Creek Pass is there's three major passes that you got to get through. Colorado is a big state, by the way, and Wolf Creek Pass is one of them. You get up over 10,000 feet, and there's snow up there, and it depends on what time of day you get there. And we got up there. It was a little bit of hail and rain, but on the descent is straight down, and it's got those rumble strips on the sides of the roads, to keep you safe. And it's major transport using these passes and RVs and these sorts of things. And I wasn't the first racer through, so the sheriff that was on duty on that stretch of road had already seen crews coming through with their music blaring and their things. So I'm sure she already had her backup, and we came through, and boom, the lights come on, and I had an earbud in my ear, like the navigator in the van is telling me, left turn, right turn, whatever. These are all in the days before real GPS, and I guess I could see the reflection of the police lights. Is this for me? And so a female state trooper pulled in front of me, but I couldn't stop. These are rim brakes. I couldn't get the bike to stop. And pulling over to the side of the road on those rumble strips isn't exactly the best idea either.
Yeah.
But she pulled us over, and when I finally did get stopped, my buddy Dan, who was sitting in the nav seat, he's talking in my ear, making all kinds of jokes while I'm trying to look straight face to this lady. But she knew what was going on.
Right.
And she said to me, "I know that you'll get a penalty for if I call the race director. You need to be safe." So I realized right away my role in this is to shut up and just say thank you. And that's what happened, and she let us go.
Mm. And do you know how fast you were going?
80K, 90K maybe.
And you're comfortable with that on the open highway?
No, not a lot of choice, because you ride your brakes, and then the next thing you know, you're going to get some flat tires, or the rims are going to heat up. And I ride tubulars, so I was always afraid, okay, I'm going to heat the glue up, and the rubber is going to come off. And I got good at descending. That was another thing, and descending at night.
Yeah.
Because the thing about having a van in behind you is that his headlights are illuminating the road. So a little crack in the road looks like a chasm. It looks like a log because of the shadow.
It has a shadow.
And so this was what took me some time to get used to this sort of thing and trust myself, because I did not enjoy the first two RAAMs descending. I didn't enjoy it. It was scary as hell. And I thought, man, if I go off the side here, no one's going to find me.
Hello, listener. I want to remind you to check out my new Ultra Tri-Fest coming to Whistler, British Columbia in August 2025. It has 5 racing formats to choose from, and the feature event will be the new Ultra 515 Worldwide Championships, in which racers from every 515 race in the world may attend. I am currently accepting declarations of interest from athletes without committing to signing up, in order to verify that there will be a viable field of competitive athletes. This window to express your interest will end shortly, so don't delay any longer. Get all the details at ultratrifestcanada.com, and feel free to contact me personally with any questions. Let's maybe move on to your Ultraman experiences. That's obviously what got you to RAAM. You were doing those before and concurrently, and after, I guess.
Yeah.
When I was looking up the results, I see that, as they say, you were always the bridesmaid when it came to Ultraman in Hawaii. You've been second there in 2002, 2003, 2004, 2008. You were third overall in 14 and 15, and fourth in 2012, 16, and 17. That 2016 race, you did set an age group world record for 50 to 59. That was 23, 22, 31.
Hey, good for you.
Well, you know, Steve King makes it easy.
Isn't he the best? You know how I got into this whole gig was him. In 2002, I want to say, I was the coach of the Canadian Forces triathlon team, and we went out to Victoria for the Canadian National Championships that brought the military team out. And I met Steve in the airport on the way home. And I knew him from Ironman Canada, but with nothing but respect. And we sat and chatted for a while. And he asked me, he said, "Hey, what's next for you? What do you want to do?" And I said, "You know, I always wanted to do this Ultraman thing." And I talked for a bit, and he just looked at me and says, "Well, what are you waiting for?" I went, honest to God, I went home and I signed up right then. I did it at 2002, and it was Steve King. We became very good friends after that. I talked to him about RAAM when I wanted to do RAAM. It was him I called to get his ideas on what to do. But in 2002, this guy Dan Bodden, he's done Ultraman, and Marty Raymond, who's a fixture at Ultraman. He's done it like 11 or 12 times, but he was my crew with me, Jackie, Marty, and Dan, and we're like a family now, anyways. But the four of us went over there, and we got ourselves ready and took on that race.
And so, how did you find your first Ultraman? I mean, you did very well. You came second overall. Was that one that you prepared for, or did you just go again and, I want to do this, and just ruck up and do it?
I didn't know what to do, and so I rucked up, I guess, and did it. I got myself as ready as I could, but again, good crewing. And the funny thing was, like, Jackie, Dan, Marty, and myself, we went over in advance and went and did a route recce. This route was, it was because the volcano had erupted and blocked off the Red Road. So these were out and backs, not around the island. So the swim was the swim, but the bike, it went up into the desert, past Captain Cook, then came back and finished in Kona. Day two was a massive bike ride up through the Koahalas and then back along the Ironman course. And then the run was an out and back from Kona. We went out as far as Waikoloa, turned around, came back, went into the energy lab, and then finished. So I knew I'd done a Hawaii Ironman, so I knew the area quite well. And I had finished way better than I thought I was going to. I was just happy to be there. There were some great characters. And some of my best memories, I remember there's a guy named Sergio Cordero, who's a legend of him in his own right, a great guy and a super runner. And when we took off for the run out of Kona, right off the pier there, Gord Byrne, who won the race, another friend, a guy named Don Fink was in there, an Australian guy named Andrew Stanfield, and maybe a couple other guys. We took off and we ran, and we're just meandering our way out of Kona. We're not even up on the Queen K yet, and the sun isn't really up yet. We're running along, and I'm not sure, hey, holy smokes, this is like an 84K run. I have no idea how this is going to go. We got up onto the highway, and I hear the Australian guy behind me, Andrew, he says, "For Christ's sake, boys, it's not a 5K," because we took off, and there was only three of us left at the front, Sergio, myself, and Don Fink, and we tracked off like three people for the remainder of the day. The next time I saw Gord had enough time in hand, but I was in striking range. If things had gone south for him, anyway, when we got into the to the energy lab, to the turnaround, it's 2 miles in, 2 miles out.
Yeah.
And as I'm coming out, I see Gordo coming in, and he looks over at me like, we're friends. And he says, "Hey, who wants this more?" and it woke me up. Well, here's my buddy, Marty Raymond, he's a hockey player. He's a bunch of things, a French Canadian. And I didn't know if I was dreaming or not, but I could see Sergio in front. And I'm thinking, okay, I know where I am. I've got like 10K to go from the top corner, 6 miles. And I'm putting my head down. And out of the there's a ditch there. Marty's got a hockey helmet on with a puck stuck in the side of it. And I thought I was hallucinating. And he jumps out on the road and he goes, "For Christ's sake, man, don't panic." Like, 6 miles to go. I was sure I dreamt it. And when we got to the finish line, there he was with his stupid helmet on. He found it in the ditch and he put it on. I don't know who was wearing that thing. A hockey helmet.
A hockey helmet in Hawaii. That seems a little off.
The whole trip was like that. It was just no 2 miles were the same, and it was all an adventure. It was just fantastic.
Yeah. I got to mention this to you. Being in Italy, I saw on Facebook that Sergio is looking to come and do a double deca in Italy in September. Now 70 years old. So maybe you hook up with him and.
Is he going to do it in one of those? I'll tell you what, I would. I'd go support him. Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. With 70, hard guy. Hard guy. He rides. He traditionally would run the last couple of miles in bare feet.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah. Real nice guy. Like, you look at him and you think, oh man, this guy should be a cage fighter. But he speaks like Michael Jackson, like very soft voice, and kind. Another great Ultraman, Alexander Ribeiro from Brazil. Just an elegant athlete, a pro level racer at Ironman in Kona. He's been in the top 15 there a few times, but just a great guy. And that's been my interaction. I never really got to know the crews that much, because like the way I looked at it, like my crew is handling everything for me. I don't ask them, they don't ask me. I'm the monkey that runs. But I got to know the athletes because you're running around with them. Yeah. And you get to know people pretty darn quick.
Mm-hmm. Now, in your 2012 race in Hawaii, one of the ones where you placed fourth, that was a comeback race for you of sorts. That was after a pretty catastrophic accident. Can you tell me about what happened in your accident, first of all, what you might have been training for, and then how was it that you decided, well, Ultraman seems like a good place to make a comeback from this?
I was still in the military. I was active duty, and I had got an assignment to Afghanistan for a year. So that it's a posting, it's not a deployment. Mm-hmm. And your head does a lot of things when you're sitting in isolation, not being able to move and do stuff. And I really was aching to get back to racing and feeling good again. And while I was in Afghanistan, my wife and I both got a posting to Colorado Springs. So on my return, I was going to move straight from Ottawa to Colorado. And I thought, this is great because it's a training ground, and this is super. And we drove across, and I was thinking, okay, like, it's been a year I was in Afghanistan. I haven't done any training, but it's September and the Ultraman is in November, and I want it, and I believe I can win. And so I'm going to do it. And my wife, very supportive. We moved up to 7,000 feet of altitude. And I think I was there maybe 3 weeks. And I just had an unfortunate accident, and I got run over by a truck. And it put me out. I had some major reconstructive surgeries on my knees and legs and body parts, so that I missed the 20, I guess that would be the 2011 Ultraman. Jane and David, Jane was the race director at the time, but Dave Cobb and Cheryl both reached out and said, hey, if you want to, we don't do this, but if you want to come back in 2012, you bet, to something to aim at. I mean, I was in traction, I had leg casts and all kinds of rehab. But
was it the kind of accident where you were like, people might have questioned your ability to race again?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay.
No, like now, you'd have to ask someone else. One thing about me, I don't ask for a lot of opinions because I just might get them. You know what I mean? Like, there's no sense in asking someone else. I know that the physio guy, like I worked with the physio at Fort Carson where a lot of war injuries get treated. And he didn't think running was ever going to be in my future. He didn't think that. Yeah. That was his thought. But he wasn't Debbie Downer. He just was saying like, let's be real.
Right.
I'll tell you honestly, I felt of all the Ultramans I've ever towed the line at, that was the one I felt like, oh man, I am going to race. I want to race, and I was mentally, I was in. I believed I could win.
And how much time did you have to properly train for that one after your full recovery?
Well, all of it, like that part of recovery was training. I probably, if I'm honest, I guess looking back, it was less than ideal. Being at altitude and I needed to start my job, by the way. Like once I got out of the hospital and out of the rehab, I had to go and get qualified. So there was that aspect to it. But those are just things that everybody overcomes, like I'm not kidding you. I believed I was gonna race. And I didn't really think that my those injuries upheld me. I had some other issues that I didn't even realize were underlying as a result, but they came to the forefront, and it was a long day. Let's just say I needed a lot of sunscreen for the run on day 3. I was out there way longer than I wanted to be, but there was no way I was gonna quit.
Yeah. Well, people that listen to this podcast, a lot of them, they want like the actual how-to advice. And I'm wondering if maybe you can share like your best practical advice, like of doing a 5:15 distance race for someone who's maybe, thinking about what should I be doing in training? What should my race strategy be? Nutrition. You've talked a lot about cruise. I think we got that kind of covered off. It could be something that you learned on your own, or maybe that you learned by seeing another racer, or maybe something you picked up from your coach, Mike.
Mike Coughlin. A big shout out to Mike Coughlin. He's a very helpful guy.
Yeah. Tell me some really good practical advice for people that want to do a 5:15 distance.
So like, it's not, I went all in. I'm not a guy, like I don't sip. I go all in on the things that I do. And having done, like I don't come from a swimming background. So one thing I did for the Ultraman was I came up with this idea, like what would give me, because in order to race, I need confidence. I need to believe. If I don't go to a race if I have a doubt. Mm. I won't go. And it's not out of any disrespect. There's just no point. I have enough T-shirts and I'm dragging my wife and the family and so, everybody's got skin in the game and they're spending money to come here. So I'm going to give my best.
Right.
And so I build up to 100 by 100. This is a typical swim workout, 100 by 100 meters, pull buoys and paddles. And the swim and rest is on 1:35. Target time is 1:25. So 10 seconds. And you can follow the clock all the way around because it's in 5-minute increments. So that's how I knew where I was. Right. Just a swim pace clock. And I get in there, 3 hours and 20 minutes later, I'm out of the pool. But I build up, I start with 50 and then go to 60 and 70 and 80. And that just gives me such enormous, I'm not like a swimming background, mm-hmm. but in the end, I was coming out of the water with the front guys. and feeling like I'm ready to race. I'm not completely bagged. Well, it's those sorts of things that I applied to my training. It was to how to move efficiently when I'm fatigued. Even better is how long can I delay fatigue? Let's do that. Let's get good at delaying fatigue. And that's how I did it. Like slow, get on the bike and ride. Like if Jackie and I were going to go somewhere, I would ride and she'd meet me in the car.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not killing myself, but I'm nice and steady, building up this big diesel engine to be able to delay fatigue, because that's all. Something like the Ultraman. The Ultraman is a race of who gets tired first.
Right.
And that's that. There's no special moment where you put the nail in the coffin. It's like, okay, well, who fatigues first?
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't want to be that guy. So so those were the sorts of things, and I know, like, I didn't have to do like a million miles every day, but I rode, ran, and swam every day in some specific order. I'd have like Mondays was at a formula, Tuesdays had a formula, Wednesdays had a formula, my entire life, and it evolved around work and raising the kids and being a family guy. But you could set your watch to it.
So being in the military, did that make it easier or harder to train? Or I guess it depends on what your posting was at the time. Like you're saying in Afghanistan, probably you're not training over
Nothing.
there. But
no.
Yeah.
No. Those are one-offs. On an air base, for example, or where I was, I spent a lot of time at the Royal Military College in Ottawa.
Mm-hmm.
I've never had the environment that I was around was always proactive. It's military. I mean, fitness is a currency in the profession of arms. I mean, fitness is life. And so, no one was going to get in the way of that, as long as, your work's getting done and you're pulling your weight and you're leading, oh yeah. I found the culture to be very, very welcoming. And so it was never an issue. Not everyone's as happy as I am that, for example, I'm fit or I'm going to go swim at lunch, like not everybody feels like that, but it just got in my blood and it became a habit.
Yeah.
And it was like autopilot.
And I think that's for a lot of the people that are doing these type of events. It is lifestyle. It's, they could walk up to any event and complete it because their lifestyle has that background in it for them, that they, even if they hadn't specifically trained, a lot of times you can just walk in and pull one of these off, which sounds crazy to people that maybe just do an Ironman race. When I say just Ironman. But that's kind of the culture of the people doing these races. Yeah.
And, I looked for weakness, like where am I weak? And then I'm just going to spend my time on that.
Which a lot of people would not do. A lot of people are like, oh, I'm a good swimmer, I'm going to do more swimming.
I know. I listen. It's the scourge of like the confidence. I've had a couple of coaches in my time. I'm largely self-coached, but when I got to a level where I thought, okay, no, I want to break through, and I'm getting older, so I really need help. Mike Coughlin was one of them, we would talk about exactly that, addressing the limiters. Okay, well, let's go nail them. Let's go on your trainer, and so you can control it. Like most of my riding was done on the trainer, particularly after my accident with the vehicle. I was scared to ride it. Colorado was dangerous as hell. It really is dangerous to ride. Beautiful place, Boulder, okay, but where I was in Colorado Springs, you're taking your life in your hands. And so no, you're a person. You're a person. And you're not a target. Folks get out of your way. Cars get out of your way, and you're welcome in every cafe, every little town I go through, everywhere. And I'm not the only one. There's like a hub of people. But back to your point, in working with coaching, I say, okay, well, let's work on these limiters, and I need a fresh set of eyes, because it's easy to lie to yourself.
Right.
And I'll speak for me anyways. It's easy to fool myself. I'll get it later. And it, at the level that I wanted to race at, I realized I can't have any stone unturned. We're not going to go and make this commitment to go and race at this level and know in my heart that I didn't do the work. I'm not going to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I guess it was probably you met up with Mike a little bit later in your career, but and he's been on the show before. He was on in season 2, if people want to go back and listen to Mike's episode. But what was it that he was able to provide? Because I know now he coaches a lot of people doing Ultraman. That helped you to maybe go into that next level.
Well, his approach, I raced with him. And I saw him execute. We ran for a bit of time together. I was there when he went by me on the bike, like I was standing still. So I saw that. That's not talk. That guy did it. He got to the finish line on day 2. Steve King will tell you, they take their time to move from one place to the next place, and they've got their timings pretty much. He said Mike Coughlin was at the top of Kohala when he was the first one to go to the finish line. He's just on the other side, 17 miles away. He said, holy shit, this guy is flying. I ran with him.
2015? Was that the year he won?
Yeah.
2015?
Yeah. We ran together for a bit. And I just, the way him and his wife interacted, a lot like me and my wife, you could see that, they're in it together. And so I reached out to him and I said, hey, listen, can you help me? Mm-hmm. I was an older guy, but every time I went to the Ultraman, I went to win, to give my best. And I did. Yeah. Honestly, I didn't even care about the finish. Honestly, the finishing was. I know that I gave my best. I know I did.
Well, you can always be happy leaving a race when you know that you left it all out there.
It's the thing. I hate losing more than I like winning, and I've only lost when I didn't prepare. In other words, that's the losing feeling. Like when I knew in my heart, you didn't do the work, man.
Yeah,
you didn't do it, and I hate that.
That's different than another athlete was better than me on that day.
Oh, listen. There's another guy, Tobias. I'm gonna butcher his last name. Great guy, Toby. He's a German dude. He won. He won. I can't remember the year. Maybe 2016.
Weinemüller?
That's him. Yeah,
I probably butchered his name.
Toby, if you're listening, because we're friends. We're friends. He reached out to me recently because he's doing a bike ride across the Dolomites here, and he wanted to know if I do. Great guy, but I watched the way he raced. Same deal. He just elegant and classy and committed. And, he'd show up in the morning, all 3 mornings he'd show up. Well, I don't think I'm going to be there. Oh, yeah, sure, okay. Yeah. I told him on the run on the last day, stop saying that. Stop saying that, young fella. But just a great athlete. And to watch people, anybody of any level, but to watch folks work through their demons, it's impressive and it motivates me.
Hello, listener. I love getting your feedback and suggestions for the podcast. Keep them coming at 515ultraman@gmail.com. For those that want to help me promote the show, I suggest that you tell a friend to listen to. Word of mouth is a great way for podcasts to get new listeners. And if you don't mind publishing your feelings, a free way to support the show is by leaving a 5-star rating and review on your podcast app. It's a chance to tell me what you love about the show, and it helps others discover it too. Finally, if you're so inclined, you can show your appreciation for my work by clicking the support link at the bottom of the show notes. to go to my Buy Me a Coffee page. Thanks for all of your feedback and support. Now back to the show. Well, you've also, been the top of the podium in a number of your Ironman races. Maybe I can just go through your resume here for the listeners. Because it's also very impressive. 33 Ironmans, at least. Maybe you've done more. 17
I
times.
Can't remember. Yeah.
17 times at Ironman Canada. And that's
Yeah.
the legit Ironman Canada, the one in Penticton, not this new Ironman Canada Ottawa.
No, shout out to Steve King. Shout out to Steve King.
Yeah.
I love Penticton.
Yeah. You did the World Championship in Kona 5 times. You've done various other locations. You have a 70.3 World Championship age group win at 50 to 55 in 2017. 2 times North American age group champion at 40 to 44 and 55 to 59. So with all of that Ironman racing experience, I haven't asked this one before, but can you give me I can't believe that happened story from one of those races?
Sure. In Kona, the second or third time I got to, so in the early 90s, they had at what they call the hot corner, this big Jumbotron TV. Right. This is before Facebook and the internet and everything, big, huge. And as you're coming up, there's somebody with a camera and you're on this big TV and he's got a bullhorn in his mouth and he sees me coming. I'm coming down the street with everyone else and there's tons of people watching this thing, right? Like say on the hot corner by Alihi Drive. And he 9:15 or whatever my number was, and 9:15, do you need anything? I look at him like I didn't have a special needs bag, so I'm like, dude, I don't have a bag. I don't have a special needs bag. And so he looks back, and I can see myself on the Jumbotron. It's me, and he's in the thing, and he's like, 9:15 has no bag. And these were in the days when we raced in Speedos. So as I'm coming through the corner, there's a bunch of people. I'm like, no, I have a bag. I just don't have one of those. And the place, I could hear them laughing a mile away. It's always stuck out. It's always stuck out because I was feeling like shit, but I was able to, 9:15 has no bag. I do have a bag.
That's great. That might top Steve King talking about you to a flock of cattle in the middle of nowhere at an Ultraman race.
Yeah, that guy, man. And same at Ironman Canada. There was times before Ironman became a real brand. There was and Graham Fraser had took it over. Mm-hmm. They were jockeying for some positions, and Steve, if he wasn't the race announcer, well, he took his little microphone and he went out around the course. Yeah. And I'm telling you, man, I got a lot of energy from that guy up Richter's Pass on the run. Like I knew exactly where he was and I made sure to high five him every time. And there he is. He's talking to whoever wants to hear. And it's great energy, great energy. Yeah. Me, a homeless guy, and Steve King. Beautiful.
Yeah. Now you were able to compete in many of these Ironman races as a member of the military, and you got some recognition as such. In 1995, you placed first at the U.S. Armed Forces Ironman Championship, and were named NORAD Athlete of the Year. You, as I said off the top, you were put into the Canadian Armed Forces Sports Hall of Fame in 2003. And you were captain of the team, Canadian team, for the World Military Games in Rome. These are things that other people would never get a chance to know about or see. Is it widely known within the forces that there's a Hall of Fame for sports? And because when I started to do the research on you, I looked it up, and it's like every sport in the world is listed in there. Is it something that's widely known, and what did it mean to you to get inducted into that Sports Hall of Fame?
Well, I think good question. So I'd seen the Hall of Fame, like in every gymnasium in the Canadian Forces back in the day anyways, they're all laid out the same, and they would have this hall with the picture portrait and the resume of folks who were in the Hall of Fame. And a lot of them were from wartime service who went to the Olympics. The RCAF Flyers played in I think the 1926 Olympics, or I may have their year on. But over you see this, you go to the gym every day and you kind of look and they say, holy smokes, like these are some accomplished people. But there weren't a lot of folks like our vintage, like that were serving with us.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, a couple of biathletes that I knew that had gone to the Olympics, they got in. A couple of triathletes, Sharon Donnelly was one, and Lynn Bermel was another. And I'd been training with them, and they were on the national team. And I thought, geez, they've been to the Olympics. Like, holy smokes! And they're representing not only the country but the Canadian Forces. This is awesome. But I never had given it any thought. The awards, they're I guess stepping stones or milestones. I've got a box here that we just moved here. I can't wait to open up so I can kick myself down memory lane and look and remind myself of just how long and wonderful the career was, not only serving in the uniform but also as an athlete. Because the military, you see it here in Europe for sure. The sports is a big part, and fitness is a big part of active readiness. And when we went, the very first military World Games in 1995 were held in Rome. There were 128 countries, and almost every one of the countries, they were their Olympian athletes who are housed in their. Every country had conscription, France, Germany, Italy, back in those days. And this is where, their 18 and 19-year-old superstar athletes would be housed by the military. They don't get paid a lot of money, but they've got access to sports and to racing. And so this was my first view of it. And I mean, I was well in over my head. I mean, I wasn't at that level, but it motivated me to become that. As a result, and I in the Canadian Forces National Triathlon Team, when I was involved in it, I mean, it was a small little group of athletes, and we didn't have a very large budget, but we had sponsorship from patrons, usually at the general rank. But I saw what guys after me did with it. I mean, the program is huge, and that's just such a delight because everybody gets to play. You don't have to be an elite athlete. They've got different tiers now and regional events, and I mean, it's just a wonderful thing. And I think that was the idea about well, here it's now and totally working.
Yeah, that's great. And so, is that being run by the military offices, or is that like in addition to just the regular races that are happening?
So the Canadian Forces have a legitimate program, and they've got sponsorship, sports all kinds of things, archery, judo, you pick it. Right. And they go out for corporate sponsorships. From what I understand, I've been out of it for a while now. Yeah. But the military officers, and enlisted folks who are selected to the program, they get certain times of the year where they can all get together for a week or whatever and do a training camp. And then they're sent back to their respective units with a program in hand. And facility. I mean, there's pool and gym and staff there to help them to work their way through it. And there you go. All of a sudden, you've crafted yourself a lifestyle. Because that's what happens.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm also a little bit interested in some of the work that you did in the military. I mean, I personally don't know a lot of people in the military. Canada is mostly known as a peacekeeping nation. What were some of the jobs that you had coming up your ranks? What were some of the places you got sent out to and things like that while you were active in the military?
I joined in 1981, and I joined as an enlisted member. as a radar technician. So my very first posting was up to one of the radar sites in northern Alberta. It's long since been disbanded, but there might have been 100 of us up there. I was 19 years old, but it was great. Here I am learning a trade. And then the Canadian Forces just opened up. I became an airborne sensor operator, chasing submarines all over different oceans, and we'd fly and track submarines and surface contacts. That was a lot of fun.
Did you ever have an opportunity where you're like, oh crap, something's going down, or was it always pretty clean on the radar?
No, there's things that are happening, but we're all well trained to happen. Listen, like a lot of things happened in the 33 plus years I was in. We saw 9/11. Like that was a thing. Every airplane got grounded. Well, it didn't just happen on its own.
Yeah.
And by that time, I was working in the air defense industry. I was an aerospace control officer, as is my wife. And so we lived through that, and then the consequences after that. I mean, the Gulf experience. I got posted to with an American unit flying AWACS. AWACS is an airborne warning platform. I don't know if you've ever seen this airplane, but it's got a big frisbee on the top of it. And inside there is a bunch of radar guys like myself, and I got deployed to Saudi Arabia, flying those missions pre 9/11, but post Gulf War with the Americans embedded, and some furniture got broken. There's no question. It's a business.
Yeah.
And then after that, as I rose through ranks, I worked in staff positions for a bit as a career management. Which was a great job because it's a people job. One of the highlights of my career, I was the director of cadets at the Royal Military College. So that it's a people job, and it's a leadership job, and my personality seemed to fit with the temperament of what you want young men and women to kind of aspire to. So it was a symbiotic relationship. I loved it. We did some deployments, and as everyone does, I went to Bosnia and Saudi and Afghanistan and all those things.
Did you go to Bosnia when it was active or after in peacekeeping?
After.
Yeah.
After peacekeeping.
Yeah. Those I guess are the better ones to go on.
Yeah. Canada for its size certainly pulled its weight, and militarily, and certainly during Afghanistan, no question.
Yeah.
No question.
Maybe get a little bit lighter here.
Sure.
I understand that during COVID you decided to take up guitar, and now you're starting to play a little bit. Are you ready to join a band with Steve King?
Sure, I'd love to. You bet. You tell Steve King from me, we got a little trio here. We got a trio. Our band name is the Swinging Dicks. DIXX.
Okay.
The Swinging Dicks. And listen, COVID really hit hard here in Italy. I'm sure you're probably aware, as it hit everywhere. But we were locked in here. I had probably one of the best times of my life. It was just me and my wife, and it's Italy. It's not like anybody missed us. Right. So we just hunkered down and started picking up little hobbies, and guitar is one of them that has stuck. I'm playing.
Yeah, good. So what does the future hold for you? Or do you have any more ultra in front of you, or is it going to be more a European cycling life? Any 515s, Ironmans? What's coming up?
I don't know. I don't have anything on the immediate horizon. I'm trying to get my way through school here. I want to get completely checked out, instrument flight rating and night, and endorsed on one of the bigger airplanes. And then my wife and I, we want to fly around Europe for a while, and just ourselves. I ride, or I do something pretty much daily. The thing
You can't leave that behind.
No, so much fun here in Europe is the social riding. I'm not kidding. There, in every city, there's some sort of Grand Fondo going on every weekend.
Yeah.
And they're fun.
And you're saying you want to fly around Europe. What kind of plane would you be flying in?
I got my eye on a Cirrus that's a 4-seat, oxygen equipped, instrument equipped airplane, fully instrumented, can get up to altitude. So, I can fly over to Ireland to see my family. Yeah, we want to go over to, I want to do some stuff.
Yeah. Wow. That sounds exciting. The freedom to just go fly would be amazing.
Yeah. General aviation, as long as I can fit my bike in it. Every vehicle we've ever picked had to be able to fit my bike.
You don't just put a roof rack on that?
Not on the airplane. I thought about it.
Yeah. Well, hey, Tony, thank you very much for joining me today and sharing your stories and your advice for the people that are always looking for advice. It's been great catching up with you and hearing about this lifestyle in Europe. It sounds great. I might have to think about doing that myself when I retire.
Well, if you're ever looking for a ride, that's for anybody. I mean, I'm right here in Emilia-Romagna, and I speak Italian and I know my way around. Those are two big keys on a bike that make your experience much more pleasurable.
Good. Excellent. Well, I'm sure our listeners will take you up on that.
Sure. Hey, Larry, thanks very much for giving us the opportunity. And hey, peace and love to our Ultra Ohana, all those folks out there. Everyone who's certainly been in Hawaii will know the names that I was dropping shamelessly here, because they're all characters. They're all great people.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Hey, if you liked what you heard today, please tell a friend and be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We'd appreciate it if you'd rate and review the show while you're there. Drop the names of the people you think we should interview and we'll get in touch with them and make that happen. Thank you for listening to 515, the Ultra Podcast, a production of 55 Enterprises. Now really, go subscribe now before you forget.